So
So it's
brings
not
me to the
really,
recent tax reform, right? They recently did some reform and now they have the highest VAT tax in the world. So where are the additional taxes going to come from? It's already a high
no,
tax country.
it's that they actually gauge that to be neutral.
Hmm.
Okay, before the value added taxes were collected at each stage, not at the final stage, and you had an accumulated tax burden to the consumer. So the consumer ended up paying the whole thing, but it was charged intermittently as part
Hmm.
of the cost of inputs. This just goes to the end. So the idea, it's a high percentage rate, but that's what Brazilians were paying
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
Implicitly, even higher actually. Brazil's tax burden, and now it's much simpler.
Okay.
Companies are not going to have to sit around hiring accountants, do all this stuff all the time. And it's going to be much simpler. So it may end up generating more tax revenue because it's more efficient. As you said, yes, as a value added tax correctly implemented, it's a very high rate. But the problem with the discussion over the years, gosh, when I did my dissertation research in 85, 86, there was the first bill of tax reform put in Congress. And it never seemed like we were ever going to get one. But this is a good one. There's some
Okay.
problems. They're giving some benefits to some people that probably should, tax breaks that they probably shouldn't, like restaurants, for example. But it's a good one. And we're going to have some commentary later today about this on a thing that I'm doing today. So
Okay.
we'll see what they have to say. But my father was an accountant. That's why I moved to Brazil. He worked for Arthur Anderson. I hate accounting, so I flee from it as much as I can. But I do it when I have to do it. So, to my view, to my understanding of tax and the best experts that I've listened to in Brazil, it looks like a very good reform. So, this was, of course, conjured up in the prior government, but it's
Okay.
been in the works. Bernardo Appi's worked through. He's the main guy behind this thing. He's worked for a number of administrations, and it's a good one. And that's a good. And what it'll do, if it becomes more efficient, if we get prudent fiscal policy, they can actually probably think about lowering taxes in the future. The biggest problem has been the tax base of the states. The tax base before, the only value added tax was taxed by this was for the states. And so getting a negotiation where all the states would agree to something was always almost impossible. Income taxes are low, so no one wants to change that at the federal level. So, and then you had a value added tax at the federal level called the industrial production tax. What they did was they create, they're going to federal government's going to collect the tax. They're going to split it into two. One goes to the states. Part of it goes to the states and part of it goes to the federal government. What the political sort of snarl was, it's going to be this thing. These funds are going to be run by a board, joint board, and that might become politicized in some ways. So that is a bit of a problem. But I think those that were pushing the reform that are very hawkish in terms of fiscal policy, especially in terms of tax policy, agreed to it. So the best I can discern on this thing and what I've heard and seen and read and fiddled around with numbers, it looks pretty good to me.
So going back